Are you confused to what credit score you need in order to get a mortgage for a new house or maybe your first time purchase? Well, I have Alex Lavender, as always, a certified mortgage broker who's here to help you understand what credit scores you actually need in order to get approved for a mortgage. So, Alex, let's start off because you deal with plenty of lenders. What credit score does someone need to get a mortgage in Canada or Nova Scotia specifically?
Well, the good news is pretty much everyone can get a mortgage with any credit score. Sometimes it's just you're going to pay more money for it because it's going to be a higher interest lender or higher risk lender. Uh, when we're dealing with traditional lenders, A lenders, the absolute minimum credit score that they have is 600. Ideally, they want to see a score of 680 or higher, but the minimum is 600. If we're looking at B lenders or alternative lenders, they'll go into that 500 to 600 space. And then when you're below 500, it's pretty tricky. Typically looking at private lenders, or it's going to be pretty expensive when you're into that 400 credit score range.
When you say A lenders and B lenders, what exactly does that mean? Can you give me some examples?
Yeah, so a lender would be your traditional lender. So that could be maybe the big five banks, any of the big fives out there, don't have to name really any of them, or it could be a mortgage only lender that just deals in mortgages. But this is going to be the best interest rates, lowest down payment too. Maybe, it's 5% or using a down payment assistance program. It could be no money down and the most favorable terms. Then after that, if it falls outside of that, you're going to be looking at an alternative lender, a B lender, and they're going to have a minimum 20% down, but they'll start to look at scores on the lower side.
What can people expect in terms of difference in interest rates between like a B lender or an A lender on average? I know it changes a lot, but
yeah, it's the B lender is credit based. So the lower the credit score, the higher the interest rate. And you're typically looking at about a 1% higher interest rate for a B lender compared to an A lender, but it does kind of vary on the term length. B lenders do 1, 2, or 3-year terms. And typically when you're with an A lender, you're doing, a 3 or a 5-year term. So sometimes when you look at the 1-year or 2-year rate from a bank, it's very comparable to a B lender. But when you look at, a 1-year rate with a B lender compared to a 5-year rate with an A lender, maybe that's about 1% higher. The big thing with a B lender is they have a lender fee, which tends to be 1 or 2% of the mortgage amount.
Okay. And when someone's looking at that, where would they or how should someone actually check their credit score, and when? Should they do it before they talk to someone like yourself, like a mortgage broker, and get their mortgage in process, or when should you check your score, and how should you do it?
I think it's great to always be checking your score, because if you're checking your score, you can also see if there's any new inquiries on there or new credit lines, which could be, a sign of fraud as well. So I personally pay for the Equifax monthly subscription and just keep an eye on my credit score, and just as a preventative measure to make sure there's no unauthorized activity out there. With all these hacks that have happened at all these companies, geez, I think my information is out there a couple times. So you can't be too safe. But I would recommend, if you want to pay for it, go to Equifax or TransUnion and get a paid subscription from the source. It's usually like $20, $30 a month. That's going to give you the most accurate information. And if there's any disputes, you can do it right through them as well. If you want to pay, a free service provider, there are some free providers out there. A couple that come to mind. Actually, a lot of the banks now have it built right into their online banking. So check your bank first and see if they have, a Credit Karma, which would be like a TransUnion, or like a Borrowell, which would be an Equifax. But if they don't, you could use those sites as well. Mortgage lenders typically use Equifax. So Equifax is kind of the gold standard for mortgage lending scores. So TransUnion and Equifax can differ quite a bit on scores because they're just using a different rating system. So for example, 600 score with Equifax might be considered fair, whereas 600 score with TransUnion might be considered poor. So Equifax is a good one to use, especially for mortgage purposes. And yeah, keep an eye on that score at all times.
Okay. I think that's really valuable information. Last question I have for you. If someone has like a good credit score, would you ever recommend that they go with like a B lender, or should someone like that go for an A lender always?
Yeah, you always want to go to an A lender if it's
Uh,
the option. So we would always try to go to an A lender first if it fits all the boxes. We do see clients that have 800 plus credit scores that are stuck with a B lender sometimes, because a B lender does more than just credit. They will also do things like income, or maybe there's another tricky aspect to the file. Maybe we're, you know, using Airbnb income from a rental property that we need to qualify. They do some unique stuff, new to Canada, self-employed income. So it's not all about credit, but if you can go with an A lender, it's always A lender first.
And if you want to start your mortgage with any credit score, as Alex said, use the link down below this video and you can reach out to Alex and start your mortgage application. And if you want to improve your credit score, then you should watch this video here, which is going to break down 10 effective ways to build and improve your credit score so you can get the best interest rate on your mortgage. And as always, subscribe to Alex Lavender on YouTube, and we'll see you in the next video.